this is Jen. Welcome back to another Reddit story where I read you stories and just give you a little bit of my 2 cents. So this one today is a very common situation, so I'm really glad to be reading it here and that I found something like this because this happens all the time. Parents of live-in adult children struggling with addiction, how do you cope? My only son has dealt with addiction since he was 17. He left home of his own volition days before his 18th birthday and has come back home twice, at 19 and at 21, after stints at rehab. The second and most recent time he spent 10 months in treatment beforehand in detox rehab and then sober living facility doing PHP and IOP, which is partial hospitalization and intensive outpatient. In both instances, he was clean for about 2 months after coming home, at which point the relapses became more and more frequent until they become common behavior. After a particularly destructive bout of insobriety, recently I warned him that living here was an opportunity to get his life together. It was not a safety net to navigate the waters of finding acceptable levels of intake for functioning addiction. If he chose to continue taking drugs, he would need to move out and pave his own way. That was 3 weeks ago, and he's been called out on and admitted to being high on drugs for the last 2 nights. I've reached the end of my tolerance with the situation, and the consequences of continued drug use have made clear the entire time that he's been home. Continue doing drugs, I will no longer subsidize his lifestyle. I feel awful about the situation. I don't like either avenue I see available to us. I don't think he's ready to stand on his own 2 feet, but staying here with parental subsidies clearly isn't helping him. He's using our support to get bombed out of his mind instead of working toward self-sufficiency. Redditors, have you dealt with adult children struggling with addiction? How'd it go, and how would you proceed in this situation? One of the things that I really want to make clear right off the bat, he has got at least a foundation of recovery under his belt. He knows what to do. He may not like it, but he knows the answers and he knows that this is not working. And that's the other thing that I'll say. It's very clear to you as a parent that this is not working. And I think that's really important. I mean, you said some really, really smart things in here. You said I just want to go back and read this. Consequences of continued drug use have been made very clear the entire time that he's been home. So it's not as if he doesn't know the consequences of the actions. So it's remembering that he has made a choice. He's made a choice. And that is to not live under your roof. Which I am a very strong believer that adult kids should not live under parents' roofs. It's not a good dynamic. There's so many reasons why, but the simplest answer is it's almost impossible for a kid to learn how to adult under their parents' roof, under the best of circumstances. And we are not in the best of circumstances. We're talking about someone who is mentally unhealthy here. Right? So they don't have the coping skills and they don't have the coping mechanisms and they don't have the tools in their toolbox to learn how to deal with those difficult dynamics. So it makes it impossible for them to adult. The only way someone is going to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet is by standing on their own 2 feet. That means he's going to have to learn how to do this. And it is uncomfortable and it's hard. And this is where I go back into your main question. How do I cope? Which is incredibly important. How do you cope with someone who is living this life? One, you've allowed him to live with you. It's not working. And now it's time to actually implement those consequences. It's never going to be comfortable. So how do you deal with that? The thing that I tell parents is it's very important to realize that you're in a journey yourself. This takes work, this takes thought, this takes focus. You have to focus just as hard on your mental wellness as they do. And we're not talking about mental health like there's something wrong with you, but it is important for you to have these skills for yourself to learn how to be happy or, kind of remember that your whole life doesn't have to be about this one thing. You're going to have to go figure out how to live your life on top of this. The thing is it's important to remember that we can have a multitude of emotions at any one given time. So that means that we can both be happy and worried at the same time. So just because I have something going on over here doesn't mean that my whole life is this, even though it feels like it. My best suggestion is to go live your life and find a community that you can go talk to about this stuff. There are communities out there, but if it's not a community that's directly related to this, it's important that you have hobbies, that you have friends that you can talk to that aren't going to be judgmental, that may not, sometimes friends, they don't know what to do or how to solve your problem, but it's nice to just be able to talk about this without feeling the stigma and the shame. Learning how to deal with your own shame through this is incredibly important. That's a journey. You need help too. Focusing on the things that bring you joy is going to be essential to help you get through this. And I mean true joy. We got to learn how to go live our own lives and balance out that stressful teeter-totter. I mean, it can't always be such a heavy weight. It's like, how can we balance this out? It's going to be there, right? Like that is going to be something, this is going to be something that you are going to be dealing with. You're going to have emotions. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be painful. It's going to hurt sometimes, right? There's nothing that I can do or anyone else can do to make that go away. But what I will suggest is what is going to help balance that out the best for you, and give yourself permission to allow that to happen. Like, we have to give ourselves permission to be happy, to be joy. That's their life. They're dealing with their own stuff, and they're going to have to learn how to deal with it. Just because they're not having a great moment or a great life at this moment doesn't mean that you have to suffer through it. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel pain and all of those things, but you don't have to suffer with them. So get your own life, have joy, have your own people. That's going to be it for this story. I hope this was helpful. Please leave your comments, your suggestions, your own stories for this, for those who are listening. You're not alone. If you're going through this, this is something that happens pretty regularly, even though sometimes it can feel so isolating and like you're the only one dealing with this. You're not. And there's plenty of other people that are out there. So when we leave comments that say, hey, this happened and I've experienced this and whatever, it makes people not feel so alone. So if you like this, please don't forget to subscribe or follow me. And I am looking forward to our next story together.